next 3 years, these three diseases are taken much further down the path of elimination.
President Buhari launches multi-million-dollar fund for intervention grants in Nigeria's health sector.
The expected benefits of the national monitoring and evaluation include reducing waste and leakages in the public sector, improving the quality of the public spending.
National Economic Council moves to end wasteful public spending. Presidential approval throws up new leadership at National Sugar Development Council.
It is only through cooperation that we will be able to utilize these resources effectively.
Plus, President Buhari eulogizes John Magufuli as African leaders shower encomiums on the late Tanzanian leader. Good evening. Thanks for joining us on NTA Network News. I am Cyril Stover in Abuja. Hingino John Adams is in Lagos. President Muhammadu Buhari joins the government and people of the Republic of Tanzania in mourning the passing of President John Pombe Magufuli at the age of 61, stating that his legacy of patriotism and dedication to the African cause will continue to resonate across the continent. In a statement by Senior Special Assistant on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, the President believes the late Tanzanian President's courage and love for his country inspired various reforms that generations will continue to celebrate, as the former leader spent most of his life serving the country and humanity, with a rich pedigree of working as a school teacher, member of parliament, and cabinet minister. The President extends condolences to the family and friends of the late visionary leader of Tanzania, trusting God to comfort them. And reactions have continued to trail the death of Tanzania's President John Magufuli, with several world leaders describing the late leader as a beacon of democracy and a champion of African unity. Adebola Brookslyn Sunday tells us more.
Few weeks ago, speculations on the whereabouts of the late President John Magufuli dominated discussions across Tanzania, with the suspicion that he had been hospitalized for COVID-19. The speculation had led to several arrests as the government sought to contain the rumors.
Kwa masikitiko makubwa nawajulisha kuwa leo.
In a televised address, Vice President Samia Suluhu Hassan said her superior, Magufuli, had died of heart complications, adding that Magufuli was hospitalized on March 6 at Jakaya Kikwete Cardiac Institute. Observers say Magufuli is one of Africa's most prominent COVID-19 skeptics.
On the continental stage, the late President Magufuli was a champion of Pan-Africanism.
Samia Suluhu Hassan is expected to be sworn in to succeed Magufuli and complete his second 5-year term. She will be the Tanzania's first female head of state. In 2020, President John Magufuli officially won a second term with a landslide victory of more than 84% of the votes, according to the official counts. Described as the bulldozer president, pragmatic leader, champion of Pan-Africanism, champion of regional cooperation during his lifetime, Magufuli clamped down on what he saw as extravagant spending, cancelling Independence Day celebrations, and ordered a public cleanup. Tanzania, also known as the African Great Lakes Nation, was formally formed in 1964 out of the union of the larger mainland territory of Tanganyika and the coastal archipelago of Zanzibar. In 1947, Tanganyika became United Nations Trust territory under British administration, a status it kept until its independence in 1961. Adebola Brookslyn Sunday, NTA News.
President Muhammad Buhari has launched an $890 million global fund to be deployed as health intervention grants. The grants are to be utilized over the next 3 years in supporting the fight against HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria, as well as building resilient and sustainable systems for health in the country. State House correspondent Adam Musambu has details.
Apart from providing impetus for progress in the fight against HIV, tuberculosis and malaria, the Global Fund grants will also mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on Nigeria's health system and programs.
So today is a banner day in the fight against HIV, TB, and malaria, thanks to the Global Fund's continued commitment to Nigeria.
I'd like to assure Your Excellency that the Global Fund will continue to support Nigeria in responding to the pandemic and to the impact on the other diseases and the health system as a whole.
In addition to the grants mentioned above, the Global Fund, of their own free will, joined the League of Donors to support Nigeria's response to COVID-19 by donating diagnostic, case management, and infection prevention and control commodities worth $51 million United States dollars.
President Muhammad Buhari expressed Nigeria's appreciation to the Global Fund for its strong partnership with the country in the fight against epidemics, thereby contributing to saving lives, especially of women and children.
This generous funding will complement our investments in the health sector, help curb new infections, and reduce HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria-related morbidity and mortality. It is my wish that in the next 3 years, these 3 diseases are taken much further down the path of elimination.
The trust of his administration in the health sector, he emphasized, is to ensure that investments get a health system strengthening focus as the most efficient way to utilize available resources and position Nigeria on the path to sustainable health programs.
We are on track to fulfill our co-financing commitments to the Global Fund for this new funding cycle and meeting our other commitments as and when due. Let me also emphasize here that this administration has zero tolerance for corruption and inefficient use of resources. I hereby direct the Minister of Health to set up an accountability framework to monitor the use of this fund and provide periodic performance reports to my office.
While restating federal government's commitment to exploring other innovative ways of increasing financing towards ensuring universal health coverage, the president promised to work with other African leaders to ensure sustained high-level political engagement towards achieving the SDG goals by the year 2030. From the State House, Adam Musambu, NTA News.
And in another report from the State House, President Buhari says as long as Libya remains unstable, illegal arms and ammunition will continue to flow in the Sahel region of the African continent. The president stated this while receiving in farewell audience the outgoing Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General and head of the United Nations Office for West Africa and the Sahel, Mohammed Ibn Chambers. Here is Adam Musambu with the details.
President Muhammad Buhari described as worrisome that armed guards recruited from different countries during the 42-year reign of Muammar Gaddafi escaped with their arms when the Libyan leader was killed. The guards, he said, did not learn any other skill than to shoot and kill. As he puts it, they are now a problem all over the Sahel countries. The president said despite the closure of Nigeria's borders for more than a year, arms and ammunition continued to flow illegally, saying, however, that the country will eventually overcome this and other challenges of development. He described Ibn Chambers, who spent many years in the country in different capacities, as more of a Nigerian than anything else and wished him well in his future endeavors. The outgoing UN Special Representative Mohammed Ibn Chambers thanked President Buhari for the tremendous support extended to him during his tour of duty and expressed the belief that Nigeria would continue to play a leadership role on the continent. The country, he said, is already playing a yeoman's role in tackling terrorism and violent extremism in the Sahel and the Lake Chad Basin area. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
The National Economic Council is hoping to give more attention to monitoring and evaluation processes in the public sector at federal and state levels to curb leakages and ensure prudent public spending. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports that the council concurred with the decision of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control to continue with the ongoing vaccination of Nigerians unless there is a contrary report from the World Health Organization.
The expected benefits of the national monitoring and evaluation include reducing waste and leakages in the public sector, improving the quality of the public spending.
Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State speaking on some benefits of the monitoring and evaluation policy, on which the National Economic Council receives a memorandum for consideration from Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed.
Also to provide independent objective assessment of the merit of public policy strategies, program, as well as projects, and providing a source of reliable, meaningful information for the citizens in order to assess government policy.
On the journey so far on broadband penetration in Nigeria, especially since the beginning of this administration, Communications and Digital Economy Minister Issa Pantami says the sector has done tremendously.
Any benefits beyond the tax to be collected if the broadband penetration is good in our state or in our locality. So the council agreed to the resolution, and His Excellency the Vice President intervened and also pleaded with the governors to ensure compliance in their various states.
During the meeting, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, presided over the meeting, launched a report on the ease of doing business in states. Jumoke Oduwale, the special advisor to the president on ease of doing business, gives us insight into this.
The objective of the report is to provide a status report of the current attractiveness of states' business climates. So some of the key opportunities for change that were identified have been collated, and we're going to work with state governments starting from April to create bespoke implementation roadmaps that will be implemented immediately.
There was also a presentation on the vaccination exercise going on in the country, and Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Laulu Akonde, gives us details of this.
According to the NPDHC, all states of the Federation have received their vaccines, except Kogi State. And then we have reports that the vaccination application has been launched in most of the states. And also there's a plan to have the ICPC co-opted into the vaccine accountability to ensure that things are done properly and transparently.
The State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the appointment of Adedeji Zak as Executive Secretary, National Sugar Development Council for an initial term of 4 years with effect from the 10th of March. Until his appointment, Adedeji Zak served as Corporate Affairs Manager, West Africa Procter & Gamble Company. He was also a former Commissioner of Finance in Oyo State. He holds a bachelor's degree in Management and Accounting, a master's degree in Accounting from the Obafemi Awolowo University, as well as an executive certificate in economic development from Harvard Kennedy School of Government, Boston, in the USA. We'll take our first breakdown. Network News continues shortly. Thanks for staying with us. The Senate Committee on National Identity and Population has screened Muhammad Dattijo Usman, nominee for appointment as the Federal Commissioner representing Niger State in the National Population Commission. The committee demanded to know from the nominee areas in the Commission where he will be making interventions. He submitted that the establishment of a long-term plan for credible data collection and analysis needs urgent attention.
That the Constitution is very clear about the population census, but what the Constitution says is to conduct census periodically. So some people are advancing arguments that the period need to be spelled out.
And tell us a little about the Population Commission itself. We are probably, you have observed that the Commission has not done so well, and what you think you are bringing on board as a nominee of Mr. President to make the place more functional.
The Constitution says you are to do a periodic census. So it's to look at those provisions and then using the machinery of administration, decision making, we can arrive at some decisions that will be in the interest of all of us. Because without credible data, I believe the kind of development we want, we may not realize it.
The House of Representatives has commenced a legislative process to enact a law on cyberspace intelligence to effectively combat security challenges in the country. Chairman, House Committee on Defense, Babajimi Benson, disclosed this during an oversight visit to the Defense Headquarters in Abuja. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
This visit is the first official engagement between the House Committee on Defense and the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo. The committee reiterated that in supporting the federal government to end all forms of security breach, the House initiated several legislative interventions to improve logistics and enhance performance, latest of which is the proposed bill on cyberspace intelligence.
The importance of space and cyberspace to the modern warfare cannot also be underestimated. The space and cyberspace has become a very critical sphere economically and militarily. Therefore, maintaining that capability is now an emerging necessity for military operations globally.
The defense chief says fostering a professional, result-oriented and effective armed forces that is loyal to the provisions of the Constitution is paramount.
There will be a collective good for not just the legislature, but of course the entire Nigerians that you represent.
The oversight enabled the committee obtain information on the capital projects of Defense Headquarters for 2019 and 2020. In another development, the House Committee on Federal Road Safety Corps has handed over fire trucks to the Borno State Command of the Corps, donated by the state government. Lami Ali, NTA News.
And Nigeria appears set to make some gains in the procurement of military defense hardware, with reports indicating that 6 of the 12 Super Tucanos recently procured are on track to arrive the country in mid-July 2021, while the remaining 6 are scheduled to follow shortly afterwards. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, said 14 Nigerian pilots are also currently training at Moody Air Base in Georgia. The Super Tucanos came off the production line in Jacksonville, Florida, and are now being equipped and flight tested. In November 2018, S&C was awarded a $329 million foreign military sales contract from the U.S. government to build 12 A-29s for the Nigerian Air Force. The armed turboprops are intended for use against Boko Haram and Islamic State militants. And the first quarter regular meeting of secretaries to state governments has ended with a call for increased efforts at tackling issues of national security. Kenneth Nanim reports that the meeting, which was held virtually, was presided over by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa.
Leveraging on the theme of the meeting, which is the role of secretaries to the state governments in strengthening sub-national level security architecture, the National Security Advisor and the Inspector General of Police urged the SSGs to embrace community policing strategy and synergize with stakeholders to sufficiently coordinate all security activities in their domain.
Fighting insecurity within the localities, that's why the federal government came up with community policing strategy. And this community policing strategy As we're implementing it, we want the secretaries of the governments of each state to be fully involved in it.
The initiative has commenced in most states, and it includes, but not limited to, the regulation and mobilization of all informal policing outfits.
Adequate intelligence gathering, deployment of ICT in national security, public enlightenment, and the need to strengthen traditional institutions were identified at the meeting as some of the areas requiring urgent attention at the state and community levels.
We must go back and recalibrate the entire political structure. If the wards and the local governments are not working for us, let's begin to think about other things that will work for us.
The meeting also evaluated implementation of social investment programs at the state level and the need to secure the forests from criminal activities in order to harness inherent potentials. Kenneth Nanim, NTA News.
And 3 persons are believed to have been kidnapped by bandits at Karji, a community along Ibrahim Yakowa Way in Kaduna. Abdullahi Muhammad reports that 1 person reportedly died in the wake of the attack by the bandits, while residents of the community are still reeling from the attack.
A sleepless night for residents of Ungwan Waziri, Karji, Kaduna. And when day breaks, reminiscent of what transpired in the darkness of the night was on top of the agenda.
It was scary.
The bandits' target was an off-campus student lodge where they unleashed mayhem and made away with 1 person.
I was so scared. I was like, okay, my room is next and stuff like that. I had the students here shouting and they were jumping into the fence. They had to break into the ceiling and they were going into the ceiling. The guy they took, his name is Muffin, right? The students they took, he just, when they were shouting, immediately they came inside, they were shouting like, don't ubon kukupito, don't ubon kukupito.
I saw when they were dragging him out. They were holding him by the neck and they were dragging him. I believe they were using him for shielding. So they went with him, and up to now we are yet to establish any contacts.
A total of 3 persons, including the student, were said to have been abducted. But the family of John Bello, a security personnel, is left in tears and sorrow. He was said to have received a friendly call asking him to step out, and that was the last time his family saw him alive.
He now put on his clothes, not official clothes, but he just put on his clothes and went out on his bike, and that was the last thing. So when they were inside, not too far from the house, about 200 meters, they had a gunshot.
The communities have decided to cut down trees. Trees, they believe, provide shelter for the bandits, especially when they strike at night. But I'm sure that when the environmentalists see this, they will be heartbroken. In Kaduna, Abdullah Muhammad, NTA.
The Sir Ahmadu Bello Memorial Foundation has condemned the recent wave of abduction of school children in northern Nigeria. In a statement, the managing director of the foundation, Abubakar Gambo Umar, decried the ugly development where kidnap for ransom targeting schools has become endemic, heightening fear for the welfare of students and low level of school enrollment in the region. He says the foundation is suggesting changes in strategies, policies, and most importantly, actionable intelligence such that adequate resources and manpower are channeled into the war against banditry and kidnappings. Minister of Mines and Steel Development Olamilekan Adegbite and the Governor of Nasarawa State Abdullahi Sule have announced the discovery of a large deposit of gold along the Abuja-Nasarawa axis. Mia Ogidi reports that there are, however, security concerns associated with the development.
Nigeria, with different solid minerals beneath the land surface, but getting the exact spots where the minerals are located and to have inventory, a major challenge. So the federal government in 2018 come up with a special initiative, the National Integrated Minerals Exploration Project, with 15 billion naira funding. 2 years after, time for harvest, starting from the home of solid minerals, Nasarawa State, gold is now found in the Abuja-Nasarawa axis.
We've done this exploration all over the country, and we've discovered very nice tracts of gold deposits, especially between Abuja here, the Federal Capital Territory, and Nasarawa, where we share a border.
It is a golden opportunity for those into the gold business. But here, great wealth standing side by side with the security challenges.
We want to nip this in the bud. We don't want banditry to come to Nasarawa and Abuja on the trail of gold, as it had happened in Zamfara, unfortunately.
Of course, in a place called Uke, at the moment, we have this activity of mining of gold going on, but illegal. And that is a very big concern for us. And I think the Honorable Minister, like you rightly mentioned, if you can set up a team that will go in there to review the situation, it will be wonderful.
So, this meeting between the federal and the state government is expected to address some of the challenges that may arise in this axis where the gold is found. Mayor Ogede, NTA News.
The federal government says it will not relent in making sure all school-age children are enrolled in school. Even with the successes recorded in closing the gap in the number of out-of-school children from over 13 million to 10 million. Minister of State for Education, Chukwuemeka Nwajuba, stated this in Dutse Jigawa State while flagging off the Better Education Service Delivery for All program of the federal government. Mohammed Musa Askira has details.
Better Education Service Delivery for All is a deliberate policy of the federal government to increase equitable access to literacy for all school-age children, thereby improving literacy level in the country. 17 states have been selected for implementation of the program, with special focus on girls and Almajiri education in states like Jigawa.
I wish to conclude by encouraging the Jigawa state to continue to energize straight towards addressing the challenge of out-of-school children and ensure results are achieved in the course of implementing BESDA program, so that the state will continue to benefit from the BESDA fund.
It is a credit to support the Nigerian government in strengthening universal basic education, as well as addressing the first pillar of the ministerial strategic plan, which is to control and roll back the number of out-of-school children.
With a population of 7 million people and 1.2 school enrollment, Jigawa state government welcomed the program, promising to sustain its 30% annual budgetary allocation to the sector.
This government is willing to support and sustain this laudable initiative. I'm sure we will work really very hard with the team and claim that first position in the country, that first position among the 17 participating states.
Muhammad Musa Askira, NTA News.
The Nigeria Governors Forum says it is committed to ensuring the safe and effective vaccination of Nigerians against the coronavirus pandemic, as well as exploring windows for speedy economic recovery and growth. These were some of the resolutions reached at the 28th teleconference of the forum. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports.
NGF says the perceptions shared by some Nigerians on the efficacy and safety of AstraZeneca vaccine is in sharp contrast with its clinical test certified by the World Health Organization and pledged to sustain commitment to the vaccination of Nigerians. The forum commends state governors for the smooth administration of vaccine at subnational levels and received endorsement from COVID-19 Technical Advisory Group led by Professor Oyewale Tomori. NGF lauds the Nigerian Governors' Wives Forum's effort in tackling issues of gender-based violence and other forms of crimes against minors and pledged to sustain commitment in winning the war. The Nigerian Governors Forum commended the renewed vigor to combat drug trafficking and abuse and pledged support to the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency to contain the menace. On the economy of the nation, the forum engaged British Deputy High Commissioner on bilateral discussion in the area of increasing capacity response to COVID-19 economic support, as well as customs revenue growth rates. The forum receives update from Presidential Economic Advisory Council on accelerated economic growth and upliftment of 100 people out of poverty by the year 2030, as well as NNPC audited account for the year 2018. 28 states have achieved disbursement link indicator for states' fiscal transparency, accountability, and sustainability, while the forum's chairman and governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, briefed governors on his engagement with Committee of Vice Chancellors of State Universities. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
The Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs and the Nigerian Hajj Commission have made a pact to ensure that all intending pilgrims are vaccinated before embarking on Hajj. The agreement was reached at a dinner organized by the Nigerian Hajj Commission in honor of the newly posted Saudi Arabian ambassador to Nigeria, Faisal bin Ibrahim Al-Ghamdi. The mandate will ensure compliance with all conditions stipulated by Saudi Arabia as part of public health safety for intending pilgrims.
There will be no occasion when an intending pilgrim will be left behind because he had no cookers.
We'll do our best possible best to make sure all Nigerians traveling to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia they follow all the protocol of the COVID-19.
Ambassador Faisal Al-Ghamdi promised to work closely with his Nigerian counterpart to bring about socio-economic development of Nigeria.
Inshallah, we are going to work together to ensure success for Hajj exercise.
We're determined in the embassy to have a very smooth Hajj, inshallah, in the future.
The Hajj Commission has discussed with the relevant agency in Nigeria and where priorities as far as COVID-19 vaccine is concerned.
Abdullahi Musa Suleja reports that the Hajj Commission expressed readiness to participate in the 2021 pilgrimage if and when the Saudi authorities decide to expand participation of the Hajj in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ibrahim Tanko Muhammad, has formally inaugurated the full-scale automation of Nigeria's justice system. This is in a bid to cope with the unfolding challenges associated with COVID-19 and the dispensation of justice in Nigeria. Judiciary correspondent Vera Chimumba reports.
Digitization of the operations of the National Judicial Council is intended to herald a regime of electronic system to the Council's document management, which signifies a significant departure and a paradigm shift from the current paper-based operations. The redesigned meeting chamber has voice tracking and audio with video conferencing for members who are not able to attend. Other features include secure access to meeting room equipped with mechanism to detect eavesdropping. With the e-document management, materials can be printed and documents shared during meeting. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ibrahim Tanko Muhammad, represented by the Deputy Chairman of the Council, Justice Bode Rudvival, said the NJC chamber is now redesigned with inbuilt security and access control for the use of the Council members. He commended the NJC Secretary, Ahmed Gambo Saleh, for what he described as a technological milestone. In Abuja, Vera Chumuba, NTA News.
And time to go over to Lagos now. Hingino, you're on.
Thank you, Cyril. The federal government will not relent in its effort towards providing enabling policies, resources and strategies for a safer Nigeria. The Minister of Interior, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, gave the assurance at the official inauguration ceremony of a modern aerial firefighting vehicle in Lagos. Imole Ayotokede Ogunfowora has details.
Managing fire and emergencies can be challenging without appropriate facilities. This aerial hydraulic platform, a DG-54M fire truck of 54 meters working capacity is one of the newly acquired machines in 2020 by the federal government to boost firefighting equipment in Lagos. The truck, which can serve both for rescue and firefighting, has the capacity to accommodate 4 firefighters during operations.
This is a fire equipment that can tackle fire incidents in high-rise buildings. It's a truck with capacity to elevate, to push firefighters to as high as 18th floor level. Of course, it's an addition, and we welcome the effort of the federal government in supporting the firefighting crew in Lagos. Every time that we call upon the federal fire service, it's been awesome. We've been working together, so we are the same team.
The Controller General for the Fire Service described the truck as a dream come true, stating that it is the first of its kind in the last 40 years.
We felt the first place to have it is Lagos. That is why when we took delivery from the port, we did not carry it to Abuja. We left it here in Lagos and put it into use in Lagos State.
The Federal Fire Service is seeking for a comprehensive collaboration with other security agencies to protect firefighters and equipment from vandalism. In Lagos, Imoliayo Tukede Ogunfowora, NTA News.
Moving on to health matters now. The dream of stamping out COVID-19 from Lagos State is fast becoming a reality as 2 major health institutions flagged off COVID-19 vaccination. Annie Daniels reports.
To these health workers and caregivers from the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, LUTH, and the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research, NIMA, the COVID-19 vaccination couldn't have come at a better time than now, after some health workers contracted the virus from asymptomatic patients.
You should help us spread this message so that Nigerians everywhere can comply.
Heads of the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, LUTH, and the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research, NIMA, led other staff in taking their first doses of the COVID-19 vaccine.
Let us all register en masse. Let us take the vaccine. It has been proven safe. It will save our lives.
If you refuse to take the vaccine, you are doing a disservice to the nation, because it will be a challenge for the nation to develop herd immunity.
The vaccination process was very smooth and swift. You just feel a little injection prick.
Nigerians are still advised to please ensure they keep to every COVID-19 safety protocols put in place by the World Health Organization. In Lagos, Annie Daniels, NTA News.
We now take a break. Network News continues shortly.
We're back in Abuja now, and let's take this one on current investigations into alleged police brutality. The families of the 6 young traders who were extrajudicially killed by some police officers on the 8th of June 2005 appeared before the independent investigative panel on allegations of human rights violations by the defunct SARS, seeking 200 million naira for compensation from the federal government. Counsel to the petitioners, Amobi Nzelu, appealed to the panel to revisit the case, as the young traders were their families' breadwinners as at the time they were murdered. Judiciary correspondent Vera Chumba reports that the panel heard other cases of rights abuses and arbitrary arrest and detention.
The government had paid 3 million naira to each of the families of the deceased Apple 6 in compliance with the recommendation of the judicial panel set up to investigate the killings in 2005. The panel also recommended that the bodies be exhumed for families to bury, with a 500,000 naira burial expenses to be given to them. The FCT High Court had, in addition, indicted some of the officers for the killing. Counsel to the petitioner Amobi Nzelu, SAN, however, told the panel that 500,000 naira burial expenses had not been complied with by the federal government. He further told the panel that 3 million naira was grossly inadequate to assuage the pains suffered by the families.
So there can be an appeal panel. We ask them to upgrade the money that was paid them as compensation.
This is a matter that has since
been resolved judicially, and all the processes required has been concluded. Compensation paid, which he admitted.
The chairman of the panel, Justice Suleiman Galadima, after listening to both parties, fixed 15th of April for ruling. DSP Yusuf Bailey, who collaborated the evidence by SP Justin Adaka in the case of alleged judicial killing of one Daniel Agoro, told the panel that the deceased was a kidnapper.
While going to the bowl of oil, was shot by its member, where we had an encounter with the
The tendering of a locally made gun recovered from the deceased caused a slight uproar as the panel chairman asked him to hold on with the gun. The panel also heard other cases. In Abuja, Viera Chinwuba, NTA News.
Since the coronavirus pandemic, the world has changed, with citizens' lifestyle continuing to emerge through the new normal. Key players say the 30th lecture series of the Society of Petroleum Engineers is repositioned towards playing an important role. With its theme, Operational Excellence and Portfolio Optimization, Way Forward for the Oil and Gas Industry post-COVID-19. Lydia Sampson tells us more.
Oil and gas sector as the global economic enabler was brought to its knees by the coronavirus pandemic. Though the global market is gradually rebalancing, experts say the situation is still fragile and the need to leverage on technology to fit in and remain relevant in the international energy dynamics cannot be overemphasized.
The government of President Muhammadu Buhari recognized the significance of the oil and gas industry as an enabler of national growth and development. The Ministry of Petroleum Resources, therefore, carved out some strategic priorities to stimulate the sector.
NNPC is embarking on an aggressive drive to monetize its gas reserves, thereby increasing revenue and power generation. This will offer the opportunity for the corporation to also stimulate its interest in cleaner energy investment.
The 30th lecture series, the first of its kind, is already keen into technology with a hybrid event with limited in-person participation, while others joined virtually. They decided it is time the industry stopped thinking itself special and start re-intensifying efforts to key into the global energy transition for cleaner energy at an affordable cost.
We need to keep our eyes on the ball to make concerted effort to wade through the fragile business environment by eliminating inefficiencies, reducing costs.
The theme of this year's lecture series, Operational Excellence and Portfolio Optimization, Way Forward for the Oil and Gas Industry post-COVID-19, is very apt and is very important to the realization of government plan transition.
They are unanimous that with the requisite collaboration and partnerships, the oil and gas sector in Nigeria can be repositioned. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo this Thursday declared open a two-day retreat of the National Council on Privatization. The retreat will, among other things, deliberate on the proposed amendment of the Public Enterprises Privatization and Commercialization Act 1999. As the Vice President notes, the only way to effectively address the massive infrastructure deficit that the country faces is by public-private partnership.
I doubt whether there is anyone left who needs to be convinced that the only way to effectively address the massive infrastructural deficits that our country faces is by PPP arrangements, as public-private sector arrangements, in one form or the other. According to the Nigerian Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan, the NIMP, and the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, that's the ERGP 2017 to 2020, Nigeria will require at least $2.3 trillion over the next 30 years to bridge this yawning gap. But a review of budgetary allocations for capital expenditure, even over a decade, in the past decade, will show that government resources are completely insufficient for this purpose. While government can take either commercial or concessionary loans for infrastructure development, this is an additional burden for a usually considerably leveraged balance sheet.
As Vice President Osinbajo observed, there is a large pool of investable funds from both local and international investors for the development and maintenance of infrastructure, which are only accessible where there is a business case to be made for developing public infrastructure. State governors and the Conference of Speakers continue their dialogue on the best way to resolve the lingering issues surrounding the implementation of the Executive Order 10, which has to do with financial autonomy for the legislature and the judiciary at state level. Representatives of both sides jointly had a meeting with the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, last week, and hoping to conclude in the next meeting. The parties also met with the Chief of Staff to the President this Thursday, and Chairman of the Governors Forum, Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State, speaks on the outcome of the meeting.
Very fruitful meeting. I think we're nearer solution than disagreement, and there are broad principles that we have all agreed on, but the details will be worked out as soon as possible. In principle, we are fully in support of autonomy of the legislature and the judiciary. Two, whatever framework we put together would be on a state-by-state basis, because fingers are not equal, as you know. Three, even at that, there must be an irreducible minimum below which no state should go.
Thank you very much.
The National Council for Arts and Culture has unveiled what it describes as a cultural food basket with a view to targeting and popularizing a healthy lifestyle among Nigerians. Unveiling the brand in Abuja, Director General of the agency, Olusegun Runshewe, called on foreign embassies and airlines to patronize made-in-Nigeria products. Oyinaya Kaluoka reports.
Stella Iwago is a local producer. She is a typical example of the benefit of consuming local products.
I came back to Nigeria in 2015, paraplegic. My bladder had issues, my heart had issues. It's like every organ in my body had issues. I was on 21 different medicines that I have to take 3 times a day. But when I moved into Orozo and started the farm, I started eating from my garden. I gradually started dropping those medicines. Some of the symptoms begin to reduce. Today, I'm on only 3 or 4 of those medicines.
For how long will Nigerians continue to patronize foreign preserved products with chemicals at the expense of their health? Was one major question on the lips of these local producers.
One thing I like about sourcing my products here in Nigeria is that you can guarantee the quality of the raw materials you're going to use, because then you can trace it to the farmers, see how they grow their products.
Lack of funds, delay in product registration, poor patronage were some of the challenges hindering the promotion of Nigerian products.
Let Nigerians do so. Even if someone is coming here to invest, let him go through a Nigerian. We are smart.
The Director General, National Council for Arts and Culture, Olusegun Runshewe, who pledged support in promoting Nigerian food, called on foreign embassies and airlines to patronize made-in-Nigerian products.
Nigerians one thing, a stop must start today. Somebody must start something. Let us stop underrating ourselves.
Oyinaya Kaluoka, NTA News.
The European Union, in collaboration with the International Organization for Migration and Africa Youth Growth Foundation, is training over 150 border operatives on the rights and dignity of migrants across Nigeria's borders. Ngozi Silva Technicure reports that the pilot phase starts with Seme, Jibia and From Borders.
Migrants, but that is not a limitation to their fundamental human rights. However, regrettable sins like corruption, ignorance of migrants' rights, interagency rivalries, poor oversight and ethical deficiencies of border officials have rendered these migrants less humans, leading to various forms of abuses. a trend that needs to be corrected with proper education for those manning the borders, and this informed the meeting of these best brains on human rights protection.
Training is to remind the border operatives on these rights, and upon which they are developed and orchestrated both at the international, regional, and national levels, and equally to build synergy among border operatives and improve their operational efficiency.
From the stakeholders meetings and trainings we'll be having, and the commissions like interface with partners, we realize that migrants' rights are being abused, at the borders, without the border personnel knowing that they are abusing the rights of these migrants.
Those having daily contacts with the migrants, especially from the Nigerian Immigration Service, Customs Service, Police, Civil Defense, NAPTIP, border communities, are to be trained in Seme, Jibia, and Efun borders. This capacity building is also to ensure that border operatives are abreast with the international best practices of protecting and guaranteeing the rights of migrants. In Abuja, Ngozi Silva, Technical, NTA News.
And more reports just ahead. Stay with us. And that's Network News Tonight. Remember to be a star. Stand with NTA against rape and rapists. I'm Cyril Stover. Good night.